Man, I don't know about you, but it really feels like something could be brewing behind the scenes in Chicago right now. We're getting closer and closer to training camp. The excitement is building. Expectations are higher than they've been in years. And all of a sudden, there are conversations starting that could completely change the direction of this team if they ever became reality. And that's exactly why today's video is such an interesting one, because we've actually got two huge Bears stories to break down. The first one is about a bold move that could completely reshape this offense if the front office decides to get aggressive. Then, right after that, we're going to talk about another report that suggests this blockbuster scenario might not be as just as some fans initially thought. Whether you think these rumors are realistic or not, the fact that people around the league are even connecting the Bears to moves like these says a lot about where this franchise is heading. It feels like the rest of the NFL is finally starting to look at Chicago differently. And that alone should get every Bears fan paying attention. Before we jump into everything, if you're a real Bears fan, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and join us here on Bears News Daily. I'm Andrew, and this channel is still brand new. Our first goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers. I'd love for the fans who've believed in this team through every high and every low to be the ones who helped build this community from day one. Now, let's get into these two stories because there's a lot to talk about. So let's start with the first story because this one immediately got Bears fans talking. ESPN's Benjamin Solak came up with one of his bold predictions for the upcoming season, and his idea is that the Chicago Bears should seriously consider making a trade for Indianapolis Colts star running back Jonathan Taylor if he becomes available during the season. Now, before anyone starts celebrating like the deal is already done, let's make one thing clear. This is not a report saying the Bears are actively trying to trade for Jonathan Taylor. This is simply a prediction and an idea from Solak based on how both teams could be positioned later this season. But once you hear his reasoning, it's honestly pretty interesting. First, let's look at where the Bears already stand at running back. DeAndre Swift had by far his best season since arriving in Chicago. After struggling during his first year playing under Ben Johnson, he completely turned things around in He rushed for 1,087 yards and scored 9 touchdowns, proving he can be a major weapon in this offense. Alongside him, rookie Kyle Monangai became one of the biggest surprises on the roster. Together, Swift and Monangai formed one of the league's most productive running back duos. That's a huge reason why some fans immediately question whether another running back is even necessary. The Bears also didn't make a major investment at the position during the 2026 NFL Draft. Instead, they selected Xavier Thomas, a versatile offensive weapon who can line up in different spots and potentially get a handful of touches out of the backfield. That decision suggested Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson were comfortable with the group they already had entering the season. But that's exactly where Solak's argument gets interesting. He points out that Jonathan Taylor is entering the final year of his contract with the Indianapolis Colts. At 27 years old, Indianapolis will soon have to decide whether they want to commit to giving him another expensive contract. If the Colts get off to a slow start and decide they need major organizational changes during the season, Taylor could suddenly become one of the biggest names available before the trade deadline. And Solak believes the Bears would make perfect sense as a destination. His reasoning is pretty simple. Even after Swift's excellent season, durability has followed him throughout his career. Injuries have forced him to miss time before. And while Monangai is a tough physical runner, Solak doesn't necessarily see him as someone you want carrying the football 15 to 20 times every week. Instead, he believes Jonathan Taylor could become the player who takes an already dangerous offense to another level. Think about that for a second. Ben Johnson's rushing attack already finished among the NFL's best in success rate last season thanks to outstanding offensive line play and creative play calling. Now imagine putting one of the league's most explosive home run hitters behind that same offensive line. Taylor has already shown throughout his career that if he reaches the second level of a defense, he can turn a good run into a 60-yard touchdown in the blink of an eye. And it isn't just about running the football. Taylor is also capable of contributing as a receiver, which would create even more problems for opposing defenses already trying to deal with Caleb Williams, Romo Duns, Colston Loveland, and Luther Burden III. That kind of balance would make this offense incredibly difficult to defend. Solak even suggests that if the Bears become legitimate Super Bowl contenders during the season and find themselves chasing the #1 seed in the NFC, Adding a player like Taylor at the trade deadline could be the final piece that pushes them over the top. Now, here's where I actually think Ryan Poles deserves some credit. As exciting as this sounds, Poles has never been the type of general manager who makes splashy moves just because they're exciting. Throughout his time in Chicago, he's consistently searched for value instead of making emotional decisions. And there are real financial questions to consider. The Bears know massive contracts are coming in the future, especially for franchise quarterback Caleb Williams, if he continues developing into the player everyone expects him to become. There are also future investments to make across the defensive front. If another impact defensive lineman or pass rusher becomes available instead, that could honestly be a bigger priority than adding another running back. Then there's the price. Kari Thompson points out that because Jonathan Taylor is getting closer to his late 20s and has already handled a heavy workload during his NFL career, Chicago probably shouldn't overpay. A fourth-round pick could make sense. Anything significantly more expensive would probably be difficult to justify considering the current roster. Still, can you honestly imagine this offense? Jonathan Taylor pounding defenses behind this offensive line? Caleb Williams attacking defenses through the air? Romo Duns stretching the field? Colston Loveland creating mismatches? Luther Burden III making explosive plays after the catch? That's the kind of offense defensive coordinators would absolutely hate preparing for every single week. Now, let's move to today's second story, because it actually builds directly on everything we just talked about. Bears Wire's Brendan Sugru highlighted another prediction from Benjamin Solak. Once again, the focus is Jonathan Taylor potentially landing in Chicago before the trade deadline. What's interesting is that this second report adds even more context about why this scenario could actually develop if the Colts struggle early. According to Solak, Indianapolis could be entering a difficult financial situation. Jonathan Taylor is approaching free agency while money is already committed to quarterback Daniel Jones and wide receiver Alec Pierce. If the Colts start losing games and begin thinking about a rebuild, moving Taylor could become one of their biggest options. Sugru also reminds fans that Ryan Poles has never been afraid to make moves during the trade deadline. In 2023, Poles traded for defensive end Montez Sweat. That move completely transformed the Bears' defense. In 2024, he traded away running back Khalil Herbert. Whether the move is big or small, history shows Poles is always willing to improve the roster if he believes the timing is right. The report also brings up an interesting comparison. If Jonathan Taylor were traded, one possible framework for compensation could resemble the deal that sent Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers to the San Francisco 49ers. In that trade, Carolina received a second-round pick, a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and another future fourth-round selection. Personally, I don't think Ryan Poles pays anywhere near that price unless the Bears are legitimate championship contenders. At the trade deadline, but the important takeaway from both of today's stories isn't that a trade is happening. It's that respected NFL analysts believe the Bears have reached the point where adding one elite player could realistically be the difference between making the playoffs and making a serious Super Bowl run. Honestly, that's a conversation Bears fans haven't been able to have in a very long time.